Hello and welcome to this beer clipper video. In this video I'm going to build a kit from Sarissa, an MDF kit, which is a church from their south of the border range. Now this is going to go into the huge pile of terrain I've got for Western Games because I'm loving it at the moment. But this is a very old video that I'm re-recording the intro for, probably about 18 months old, so apologies for any dodgy camera work or anything else that goes wrong. But I really love this kit, and so I really hope that you enjoy this build video. If you have any comments, let me know what you think. I do reply to all of them and they really do inspire me. I've had some really lovely comments recently as I stand here and they've really given me the impetus to keep going. So yeah, don't be shy, do say hello. And otherwise, anyway, even if you don't, that's fine. Thank you very much for watching and I really hope you enjoy the video. The lesson here is I can never have too many projects on the go. I've been staring at this and now I'm going to start it. So let me get it open, we'll have a look and we'll start to assemble it. There we are, that's the single-use plastic out the way. So this here is the Mexican church, as you can see, number 2. And the instructions are basic. My immediate reaction is, so we're going to make the framework, then we're going to build a facade, then we're going to build the tower, and then we're going to build the roof. So it actually looks like it should be quite easy. And the good thing with this is I'll be able to build this facade and build the building, and then have a look at the facade, build them all separately, and then work out how I'm going to texture it, because this is going to almost certainly be done with the same adobe, the same texturing as I did on the 2 houses for this series I've already done. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to sort through these sprues and then I'll come back and we'll look at building this first section. So here we are, we've got the sprues we need. We need sprue number 1 and sprue number 6. The floor is on sprue number 6, which I believe I can probably just pop out very easily. Normally you can with these larger ones, but do be very careful if you're doing this, you don't want to break it. And then on sprue number 1, you've got the walls and the gable ends, as they call them. So this there is the floor assembly, which we have here. You can see where the entrance is. And on sprue 1, you've got the walls and the gable end and as well. So what I'll do now is I won't press those through. I will cut them out carefully using my knife just to push out the little kind of contact points, and then glue them together, a little bit of PVA, hold them in place, and I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. As you can see, the church is basically assembled. I'm gonna skip the facade steps, which is this section here, and go on to these 2. So I can do all these right now. I've got a little bit of time, get them all drying, and then one of the reasons I'm leaving that is I need to decide what I'm going to do with the texturing, because it could be that when I apply these I'm going to need to either paint them on the sprue or something to make them look stone coloured like I want to, or prime them at the very least, and then do the texturing after I've glued them on, or maybe I need to do the texturing before. So I just need to do a little bit more digging on that, so I'm going to leave that. So we're going to move on to step 8 from step 2. Glue the upper church walls, Q, which is these 2 here on sprue 2, to the roof supports, which is these here on sprue 3. So I'll get those cut out, and then once you've done that, you then glue the aisle side roof panels to the main roof panels. Okay, and to the supports. So we take probably I think there's 2 on each side. So you take these 2 here from sprue 2 and stick them to the supports. So I will get them cut out and glued together and show you what it looks like when it's done. So I thought I'd show you very quickly how I put that together. So this wall slots in here with these 2 notches, so it goes into the vertical section. And then on the other side, which you can see I've completed, the 2 areas of roof just go onto the tabs like that. So I will now complete that there. I thought I'd show you before I put it all together. It actually is a little bit finicky to keep it secure. I may end up putting some clamps here and here just to hold it in place, and some more there. And then I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. This is absolutely flying together. So I've done the roof, you can see the clamps there, I have clamped it all. So now we're going to move on to the tower, and I'm going to do the base of the tower, and then that's going to have to stop because it is actually going to be my lunchtime and I do need to eat something before I go back to work. So what we do is we take these 4 sections here out of sprue 6, and I believe we take these 3 joining sections here out of sprue 4 and sprue 6, and it says you glue the tower sides, which is this, together, and tower door panel, and X bell access hatch, So basically what you're looking at doing is you're doing this and all of these, and that makes it into one strong, stable square, because these drop down over the top, I presume. I'm not sure. So I'll pop these out, have a look, and I'll bring you back when I'm going to actually start to assemble them. So it was actually a little bit complex until I had a brainwave. I obviously have not yet started on the facade, but what I've done is I've pulled this front step thing, is what they call it, and by slotting the base of the tower into the little area there where it's going to eventually sit, it acted as a very good third hand while I assembled the rest of the tower around it. So what I'm now going to do is glue that together. I'm going to clamp it. I'm not going to glue it to the base yet because I'm not ready to, but you can see on the top that this is how that works. So there's the stepped kind of like protrusion here, tab here, and one of them will slot down on top of that one, going down over all of it, and then the next one will only fit down to the next level, and then finally the one with the trapdoor will only fit on the very top level. So that's how that works. So I'll get that glued together, and then I think I'm going to leave that because I'm getting quite hungry now, and let that go off. I just thought I'd show you that's how I had to do it if you're struggling with that step as well yourself. The next section of the tower uses items from all of the sprues. I was trying to select which ones to use, and realised, having looked at it, that actually it is all of them. So these are the walls, obviously, that go around here at the bottom. You can't really see, but they're the arches. And then we have the 4 platforms here, and then we have the 4 kind of crosses here, and then finally we have the actual cross that goes on the top. Now the cross that goes on the top will probably end up being wrapped in silver foil or something like that to make it look really cool. So don't worry that I'm not priming it, I have ideas for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same technique as I did before. So I'll cut these out. The tower now should be dry because I've had my lunch and it's a bit later on in the day. So the tower now should have enough adhesion to stay together. So I'll be able to assemble on top of the tower using the 4 kind of holes there, or the 8 holes there, to make it stable. So and what I might actually end up doing is set it down inside this base again, just so that it's on it doesn't wobble. That might make it a bit easier as well. So yeah, so I'm going to put that together and I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like when it is done. So here's the thing I thought I'd just quickly show. So what you have to do at the top of this tower is you've got to kind of position these all like so. You've got the slot in the middle so you can see through it, and then you've got to put these crosses on top of the same, and then you've got to slide that cross through and make it all like kind of match up. Now that's going to be very, very hard unless you do it like this. Assemble them on the cross. An odd thing to say, but yeah, assemble them on the cross, and what you'll then find is you'll then be able to position it pretty accurately all the way down and position it finally accurately on the top of the actual tower. So as you can see, we can push that in and that's now in place, and then we can get some more PVA. That's a bit too much. We really don't need very much PVA when you put in MDF together. Less is more. That was a bit careless. Take most of that off. There we are. And then get the next one and slide that in place. And by doing this, you're ensuring that every single one is positioned in the correct place and is not going to have, you're not going to miss. So if you try to do it the other way around, you're very likely to be a millimetre or 2 off, and a millimetre or 2 off is enough for you then to break your MDF. So I just thought I'd show that as a little trick if you come across anything like this. Don't feel too bound to how they appear to be telling you to do it in the instructions. Have a look, see if there's a way of doing it that will help you, like this, and this now will all be lined up perfectly when it all is assembled. So this is the final one for the cross shapes. Make sure it's all straight and I've not done something stupid. I might need to go off camera, I'm not in shot. I'm going to finish this up and I'll bring you back when it's done. All of a sudden I've realised that I can do the facade, because you're not actually sticking it necessarily to the church until you've actually assembled it on this base, which is obviously a much better thing. So what it says is to take the facade front F which is this shape here, which appears to just be about to fall out, so that's good. There we are, done. And glue the decorative frame panels to the facade front, which are all of these. So I can pop these out very carefully. One of them is already very loose from previously handling this. So I can pop these out and glue these to this decorative front, however it's supposed to be. I will need to look a bit closer at the pictures and I will bring you back when I've worked it out. Assemble all that and then stick it to the base, which I've been using to put my tower up. By the way, I did break the cross, as everyone knew I would, who was watching, I'm sure. However, what I've decided to do is make a bonus out of it, and so I've actually glued it back on crooked, and it's going to be the Church of the Broken Cross. So there we are, and I may need to break the one on the front of the church up here as well, but I won't do that yet. Let's see. So yeah, I'm going to get all these things pulled out and work out what I actually need and where it goes, and I'll bring you back when I've worked that out and show you how to assemble this section. So there we are, I've worked that out. It is pretty cool actually. Some of this stuff is very, very fine, so be very careful when you're cutting it out. But fundamentally what you do is you get the large section with the curly bits, and that needs to line up with the holes on the bottom, which is where it will attach eventually to the actual church, where the church will slot in. And then you place everything. I mean, everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. Once you've worked that out, you can pretty much see where it's going to go. So this nice decorative thing is going to be glued on top. And what I might end up doing, to be honest, is making this in sub-assemblies. So I might glue that to that. So glue these two sections together first, and then also glue that on at the top. So I've got another little section here that goes on the triangle bit, and while that's going off, we can glue this curly bit that goes right at the very top of the facade and the window surround that goes in there. So I'm probably going to do those sub-assemblies, and then I might not glue this bit here on, until I've worked out how it's going to actually attach to the church, simply because I need to make sure it lines up. And the worst thing in the world is when you make a mistake and it's glued and then nothing works, and it's really annoying. So I'll get that glued together and I'll bring you back for the next step shortly, which will be already I've been at this maybe since lunch, and it's just after lunch now. If you're wondering how I get the time, I have a build running which has not even started yet, and when it does start it will take about 7 minutes, and I can't do much while it's running, so I take those chances to do some hobbying, which is what I'm very lucky for. So yeah, so the next bit is going to be painting and doing the texturing. So yeah, this is a superbly quick build and I'm really enjoying it. So I was wise to not glue it in place, because I was actually completely wrong. I've looked a bit closer and I'm still not going to glue it in place because I want to make absolutely sure that I'm right. But I'm pretty sure that that is actually going to glue on right at the bottom, because these two notches I think are where the steps slot into, and then the notch behind that's hidden is where it attaches to the church. So yeah, I think I'd actually made a mistake, which happens very, very often, and you can see that that does nicely kind of like line up there with that base thing. So yeah, I'm quite pleased that I kind of paused on that. I'm going to let what I've done there dry though, just to weight it down a little bit as well, actually, to make sure it doesn't warp and what have you, because it's very thin MDF. So I'm going to pop some weights on that, leave that to dry, and the next thing will be gluing these three things together before I then attach them to the church, if that's what I decide to do. So yeah, nearly finished though, very, very cool. Now let's talk roofs. So I have these, which are also from Sarissa, and I'm going to use these to do the roof on the top of this church, mainly because I'm a bit lazy and also I really like what they look like. So we'll pull these out of the wrapping, take a sheet. As you can see, this one's been started. And funnily enough, I've just been looking at this and I've realised that actually they're not wide enough. So this is going to be a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting a section of the roof tile on like that, and then gluing another section next to it like that. Don't worry about overlaps. Also, you can see that this has got a little bit of a extra bit of tab. You're going to want to remove that, and you want to start from the bottom. So just use PVA, and you put the first row on, and then the next row goes on offset and overlapping, so like that, just like that, maybe a little bit higher. So yeah, so I'm just going to sit and do that. That's going to be something that I can do while I'm watching builds as well, and or whatever. And it just will be something that will take a little bit of time. You can do it in stages. What you'll end up with is some probably overlap on one side, not the other, which you can then trim off. So that's how I do it. I don't try and cut to size. I'll just glue them on with an overlap over one side and then trim them all down. And I'll do that for both the top and the bottom roof on this, and then that'll be really nice and ready for painting when I get to the painting stage. I probably could finish this all in one day, but I'm not going to because of other things I want to work on, some of them not terrain related. So this is probably the last thing I'm going to do this evening, and then I'll leave it all to go off and wait, and I'll probably pick up during the week next week again, get it finished next week. But this is such a simple build that he really could do it in a day, and have it completed and ready for the putting the texture on, and then tomorrow paint it. So I really could do it in a day. But what we're going to do is we're working on the steps, and the way that I think it's best to work on to do them is, I've just had a little bit of a play, is if you glue the wider step in first, okay, and then take the narrower step which slots in on top, and that's going to need to be glued both to the step below and also in at the tabs. So you're going to put a little bit of glue like this. I just always keep saying you don't need that much glue, and that then can slot in, and what that does is it slots into those two tabs there. And then this is actually the way that I'm going to suggest that you do it. You then glue it to this base, and then that means that this will slot in nicely, and there's actually a little place for it to accept at this end here, which means that you'll definitely get that all lined up and looking perfect, as opposed to if you try to like guess where to position this, you might be, as I've said before, a couple of millimetre out, and that would be really annoying. So with those two in place, we're going to glue along the bottom here. So let's do that. That sits in there nicely. And then now we can turn it around, and we can apply glue to the back of this shape and then slot that on, and everything is going to be gravy. So there we are. That would be how I would recommend that you go about doing this. If you want to do it differently, of course, I'm just showing you how I'm doing it, but that seemed to me to be the best way to achieve a good, to make sure everything goes in the right place, so you're not like trying to bend things in after they're glued or whatever. And long-term viewers will know that sometimes I don't manage that, and I do end up trying to bend things in, and when you try to bend things in, you break them. No one is happy then, least of all you with your nice expensive kit that you spent your money on. You want it to look nice. So yes, I'll get this done, and then that'll be the last, as I said, I think, for this session of building. It's been a really fun build this so far. Really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to get texturing. So that slots in like that. And what I'll probably end up doing is getting some clamps just to hold everything in place to make sure it doesn't move, and then that'll go off nicely over the next couple of hours, and it'll be ready. And that looks really nice. What an impressive looking facade that really is. Really, really nice. I'm going to clamp it in place and then go on and do some other things, and I'll bring you along for the next step when I get to it. Today we're watching a battle report on Tabletop CP, which was brilliant, even though my the character named after me got killed. He is badass. I put on the rest of the tiles for this, so now I have the same to do again, and then that's done and I can carry on. I'm just doing this slowly now, not rushing, though I reckon I could have done it in like a 2-day build. I think that's possible, but yeah, that's not necessary. So yeah, I'm just grabbing moments when I can and sticking these tiles on. It's looking really, really nice, and I'll maybe get this done tomorrow, depending on how the day goes, and then I can crack on with the rest of the build and finish it off. For the last few days, I've been doing little bits of the shingling on the roof, and I've just finished it. Well, I finished it a little while ago. I've just trimmed down the overlaps. I didn't have very much at all, actually, because I was very able to do that very carefully. The length of this was basically 1 full strip plus 1 or 1.5, so it was very, very little waste, which is really good. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to glue the facade on, and I have also been looking at this and worked out how to do it. So I separated the facade from the base just because it wasn't exactly the right thing to do, I don't think. This will slot on the front, and the little tabs here will go into the little tabs here. So what I'm going to do is put a load of PVA over the front of this and glue that in place, and then when that's in place it is much easier for you to lift the whole thing up and slot the whole thing down onto this front, as you can see, and then glue that in place. So I'm not going to run the camera while I'm doing this because it's a bit fiddly and a bit noisy and a bit awkward, but I will do that just after I come off doing this shot. The second thing to point out is that there is a base that goes around the bottom of the tower. So if I pop that here just so it doesn't fall over just for a second. So we have these sections here, these brick sections, which are pretty nice, and they all got a bit of green paint on that, but it doesn't matter. They go around the outside of this tower. So the two small ones go either side of the door, like so, and then the longer ones, you're not going to be able to see that because of how it is. Let me make a little bit of an adjustment and bring you back. Okay, that's going to be a little easier for you to see. So we have our little brick sections, and we have one that glues down next to the door to that side, like so, and then the longer one will come in here and go into its tab and go along, and that one goes behind, and then we have the other long one return, and then you have to finally have this one that goes on the other side of the door there. So that's pretty easy as well. So I will also glue those in place, and I might actually now consider gluing the tower onto the bottom. I'm not sure whether I will. I am wondering about actually how I'm going to scenic it, and so I might leave it for a bit, and I might even end up putting this onto another base anyway, another MDF base and what have you. So this might end up being a longer build than expected, not just the church, but the actual putting it onto a large A4 a bit of MDF and doing some nice scenicking with some little bit of bushes and what have you. I think that might be quite nice. I'm not sure, so I'll see how that goes. I may do that as a second video. But anyway, I'm going to glue those things together, and then when I bring you back next onto this project, we'll be doing the painting and the texturing, which is actually my favourite part of the whole thing. It's time to start painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same idea as I did for the other buildings in this line, where I'm going to use my raw umber to paint the wood. So I'm just going to do that on the planks. But then the inside, so the walls, I'm going to do in white. So I've just got some white house paint here. So I'm going to paint probably the white first, and then I'll come along very carefully and do the floors. And that's going to be how I'm planning on doing it. I have some MDF, I have some stuff coming which will be like pews and what have you. They're on a boat at the moment, I think, or on a bus at the moment coming across Europe. So they'll take a little bit of time to get here. But I think that having a nice white interior will work really, really nicely. So I'm going to do that. Of course, this bit here will be textured in the same way as the outside of the building. So I don't want to touch that. And you can see why I've done the white first, because I've already dripped some on the floor, but that's fine. So this won't take very long. I'll probably let the white dry before I come in and do the brown, because I might end up doing more than one coat. I have not sealed this, as you can see, and I'm doing that as a bit of an experiment, because my next building that I do in this line, I'm going to be using to test out various ways of sealing MDF. So this is my experiment without sealing. And we'll see how many coats it takes, and that'll be a video coming to you at some point, but I'm not sure when. Anyway, there we are. I'll stop rambling, get this white paint on, and then I'll do the brown paint when I come to it. While I'm waiting for the paint inside to dry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the base and the tower to the base, because I may as well. So yeah, I've had a look, and I think that I'm going to basically do the same colour scheme as they have on the website, which is really nice, kind of a whitey grey texture on the outside, and then red tiles. Obviously they've not used their own tiles to replace on the roof, whereas I have used the paper tiles. But still, I think it's a really nice little thing. So I'm just going to put some glue here and stick this together, and then I will drop the tower in place as well. I've just stuck fingerprints on my paint, which is a bad thing to do both in real life and when you're modelling. So I'll probably clamp that, I'm going to need to repair the paint job. And what I'll also do is I will stick the tower in place there as well. But I'll do that when I'm not on camera because I'm struggling a bit to get in, and that's why I've got my fingers on the paint. So yes, but yes, I'm going to glue them together and then we'll come back and we'll do the texturing once that's all dry. With the building now setting up with the tower in place and all clamped and everything, I'm going to come along with my usual nice rich red, and I'm going to paint these tiles all this nice bricky kind of tiley red. And this will only, I would have thought, take one coat, and it won't take very long. So I'll get this done and then I'll be ready to do all of the texturing all at the same time, both of this and of the main building, which means I can just do one mix and get all the colours the same rather than making mistakes. I'm probably going to use white grout, but we'll come to that when we come to it. So I'm just going to come along now, and as you can see, it's a lovely colour and it dries nice and red, and I think it will look really, really nice on this build. So yeah, let's get this done, and next step will probably be painting the floor inside, but also I'll be looking at doing the texture, and then it'll be done. These are really, really quick builds, I really enjoy them. So there we are. I've left this overnight and now I'm going to come in and do the painting of the floor. Very, very carefully, try not to get too much up the walls. So I've picked a fine brush, but inside this will not be something that we've seen very often, but I still want to do it nice. And what I'm going to be doing is putting the lines from the paintbrush in this direction, and I won't be putting too much paint in, so I'll spread what I've got out quite a lot so that it's a nice thin coat. So I'll get that done and then we'll move on to texturing. As per usual on these kits, they don't take very long to do. So let's just get this done. I was just about to start mixing up some white grout and PVA. I've just been sat doing a bit of sieving of it while I've been watching some YouTube videos, and I've had another look at the picture on the Sarissa website, and I reckon what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to undercoat. I'm going to put black paint underneath and then do the white grout over the top, so because it looks a bit dirtier and a bit grungier and it looks like it's got some quite heavy shading, and I think that's going to work better. So I've got my black terrain paint here, and all I'm going to do is going to paint that all over all of the model that isn't already painted. So yeah, I won't film it, I'm putting paint on the model, but I just thought I'd show you. This is what I'm going to do. Black terrain paint, you can see it, there's a link to how to make that in the description below. It is basically house paint mixed with PVA, water and a dash of washing up liquid so that it doesn't go off. Anyway, I will bring you back when I'm coming to the next step, which will be the application of the grout, and you'll see what it looks like painted black. What I'm going to do now, I have mixed up quite a watery batch of a grout. So I've got white grout and I've added some grey paints to it, PVA, but no sand this time, so I don't want it to be too gritty. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come along and paint this thinly over all of where I've painted black. Now I may end up having to come back in with some white paint and do a wash over this as well, because it might end up being a bit too dark, I think, but it will allow me to fill in some of these gaps, some of these tabs, and also just get a bit more of the correct colour that we're looking for based on the picture on the website. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to stick some YouTube videos on that I'm watching and just paint the whole of this. It won't take me very long, and then we'll come back for the next step, whatever that's going to be. Not sure what the next step is right now, but you'll find out very shortly, and I'll find out when I get to it. This won't take very long, as you can see. This is looking really good and is nearly complete, nearly done. So I'll probably finish this tomorrow. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in, and as you see, I have put the kind of like grey grout mix over everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Africa, which is a nice dusty sandy colour. I'm going to come in and paint that all over the soil area or the ground area that's around the base of these two particular buildings, and then when that's dried, either tonight or tomorrow, then I can put some grass down and tufts. Gonna have to repaint that door, just been very careless there, a bit more brown needed on that, but yeah, so then I can put some tufts down and then it will be done. So this has been a really lovely quick build, and I think it looks great, and it's going to look really nice on the tabletop. So I can highly recommend this build if you're looking for something for like Wild West, or like this is for Blood and Plunder, so Age of Piracy. This is a really nice little kit, goes together very easily, very easy to pimp and paint up, as you've seen. It's taken me almost no time, and it comes out looking great. So I will have to touch up that door, and I'll do the rest of the painting, and then I'll bring you back when I come to do the actual flocking and tufts. So the final touches on this, and what I'm going to be using is some Geek Gaming from Luke, dead grass tufts, and I might put some others on as well. And I may do some more gravelly things, but the first thing I'm going to do is that. So I'm going to use some PVA. I always use PVA as well as the adhesive that comes with the tufts. It's just a better idea. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a few dabs of PVA in various places where I want it, mostly to hide gaps and mistakes, because there's a bit of a gap there where I've not glued it very well. Put one here as well, just to add interest. I'm not going to do too many, I think that's probably going to be enough. Maybe one here. And then what you need to do is use tweezers when you're applying these. If you don't use tweezers, you will find yourself getting them stuck to you, which is not really what you want to do. So let's extract the pack for the plastic. Okay, and one actually has got stuck inside the pack, so I'm going to try to save that, drag that one out, make use of that first. There we are, and then we can put them in place using the tweezers, and hopefully they don't get stuck to the tweezers as well. But there we are. Pulled it off. Messy, messy, messy. But there we are. So this is what I'm going to do. Stick some tufts into these areas and just dress it up and make it look a bit nicer. And like I say, I may very well come back and do a little bit more dressing, and if I do, I will be sure to run the camera and show you. But this is really starting to come to life now. I'm really pleased with this. It's been a really nice, fun build, not very difficult, and it's looking great, and I think it's going to look really good on the table when I finally get my Blood and Plunder on. And it'll work very nicely, like I say, for Western as well, for Westerns. So yeah, let that dry and have a think about what else I might want to add, and I'll bring you along when I have made that decision. I've got these tufts that I received for free when I ordered an army actually years ago, which I'm still using. I'm not sure where they're from or who made them. They're probably Games Workshop, to be honest, but I quite like them. They've got a little bit of a different colour, so I'm going to pop those in a little bit as well, just to add a little bit of variation, and I think that's going to be me done. I've decided to do just one more thing. I'm going to use the unsifted gravel from my backyard, and I'm going to use Luke's fast drying basing glue to just put a couple of blobs here and here, just to add that final little bit of texture which I've been staring at this and I do think it's missing. The reason I'm using my backyard stuff is because it's actually just perfect colour to fit in with this dry, arid look that I'm going for on this build. And as you can see, it's going to look absolutely brilliant when it's stuck in there. Excuse me, still got my cold, it's hanging around. So yeah, so I'm going to push that in there, and I won't even need to paint it because it's the right colour that I want. So I can just drop those in and literally drop them there. Oops, I'll pick that up in a second. And they will look very realistic. Now, the only thing that's possibly not been done that possibly I should do is weathering the roof. Now, it's very clean. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do it or not. You'll find out when the next clip happens whether I have or not. I am thinking about putting some pastels on there and just like dusting it down a bit and making it look a little bit more worn. So we'll see whether I do that or not. But other than that, I think that in terms of the decoration around the entrance, that is looking really nice, really full of character, and I'm very happy. Well, there you are. These MDF kits are brilliant. You really can get a very good result, really simply, as you saw. Just a little bit of grout, a little bit of gravel, a little bit of paint, a couple of tufts, and it turns into a building that looks really great on the tabletop. So yeah, very impressed. And Sarissa are one of my favourites. I mean, I do have kits from all sorts of manufacturers, but I've just always had a good time with Sarissa, so I can highly recommend pretty much any of their kits if you're looking to get started in MDF. That's a really good place to start. They're really reliable, they deliver quickly, and they don't sponsor me, so none of this is being paid for. It's just my opinion, and they're going to be around for a while, I think. Hopefully that doesn't curse them, but they seem to be a very stable business with a lot of products, so yeah, can highly recommend them. Anyway, enough rambling about that. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this video. Did you enjoy it? I hope you did. If it inspires you to make your MDF kits look a little bit more realistic with some simple tricks, then let me know as well. Yeah, otherwise, thank you very much for watching, particularly if you've made it this far. And as I always say at the end of all of my videos, to everyone, please stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.